Were you a Transformers guy at all growing up? No?
Yeah.
Let's go.
No, I didn't have a normal childhood.
Who did? Honestly, who did?
My childhood was pretty different. Pretty different.
Tales from the ditch by our house.
All right. Tales from the Ditch. Still doing this podcast in the apocalypse in your time of greatest need. We are here. Sean Moss, Seth Wildtune, back with us again. Back at again with the not white Vans. He's got red and black Nikes, actually. Those are dope.
Yeah, these are nice.
Dang it. I have
These are
Nike
nice.
running shoes, man. Jesus Ojeda.
Hola.
Not Ojeda? Ojeda.
Not
Yeah.
Ojeda.
Not or.
Like I said that one.
That's what it was.
Not or.
That's what it was. It wasn't
forgot.
just the question mark. It was like, well, there's Ojeda and there's Ojeda. Ojeda?
Which one is it?
Would you like the sandwich or Ojeda? Which one? Which would you
I
prefer?
like sandwiches.
Jesus, how the hell are you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Surviving.
Surviving, family is
Surviving.
healthy in this season of the Rona.
Yeah, the Rona. Oh, we've been good. I honestly think we had it like in the beginning of the year,
Really?
and we got over it because we were sick as dogs. I mean, we were
Dang, man.
sick for like a month, all of us.
Yeah.
And I've never been sick that long in my life.
Yeah.
You know, so after the third week that I had a cough and it wouldn't go away, we all went, because we all had it. We were all coughing. We went to a doctor. We got tested for the flu and strep throat.
Yeah.
They both came back negative.
Jeez.
So they're like, well, it's negative, but we're not going to do the COVID test because at that time,
Yeah.
they barely had any tests.
Barely had it.
So unless you were like pretty much dying, they wouldn't test you at that time.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that's what it was.
Jeez.
You know, but we kicked that Rona in the butt. Better have it. Give it that 2-piece.
Two-piece and a soda. Yeah, dude, that's so... There's do you know who Jorge Masvidal is?
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Okay. So his nickname is Street Jesus. He's an MMA fighter. He just, okay, to put into perspective, he just had a match that he won, and another contender was like calling him out while he's doing an interview. He walks over to a dude, hands behind his back. Like, you say something. The guy gets in his face. He hits him, blasts him. And that's what he says. Like, he goes, oh, you know, I hit him with the 2 or 3 piece and a soda, and boom, boom, he's done. And I was like, I am a fan of you from now on. He has one of the quickest KOs in UFC history.
Really?
He did a flying knee, like 5-second KO.
No, yeah.
The bell
Oh, I've
rings.
seen that.
He ran, did that flying knee, and KO'd the guy.
He used to do that street fighting in the
He did
backyard.
street fighting. He knew
Yeah.
Kimbo. He would do street fighting in backyard. Yeah, you got the pinky up. You're doing the swinging and kicking at the knees and like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Dude, I wish I could get Jorge. Let's
Dude, Jorge's
get
a
him on.
badass,
let's
man.
message
Let's-
some people way
let's
out
call
of
him.
our league. Like, I'll just message Jorge Masvidal, Matt Damon, and just try to get
We
like,
should.
we have thousands of subscribers. So really, I'm all, if thousands is ones, yes. Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's good to have you, man. We're just
Glad to be
surviving
back.
like everyone else.
This is a cool thing too. This is the first time we've had a guest in the studio since the Rona.
That's right. Yeah,
Oh,
we have
what?
not had any other guests.
I
Yep.
feel so special.
Yeah, it's all either been online from our house while I'm eating Cheetos, or it's been us in here and like calling in, or someone doing something on. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
That's
a,
a
In your
trip.
face for everyone else.
Yeah. Take that, you stupid Christians. Yeah, just that. But anyway, while I smoke this drug, do you mind if I bring up the topic? Are you cool with that?
please do.
Okay. So I know we've talked about tons of fun stuff. White supremacy, riots, coronavirus. This is all in 1 year, folks. I know it. We're not even done. It is so ridiculous. We've talked about all this stuff. We talked about my Opa being a spy. We talked about Logan talking about creation and getting fired from a church. That was a hard story. I think I was harder in the World War II stories.
Yeah. It was good,
Tonight,
though.
I'm asking Jesus and Sean something that I think is very pertinent. And this isn't, here's the thing. Obviously, it's all men in this room, fathers, but I want everyone to listen to this because I think it's pertinent to every human being. So here's the question of the night, something we're going to go over. And I think I'll get good ones because the men I know in this room are guys I respect, guys who they've seen life. I don't think you'd have to argue with them or do a lot of convincing to let them know it's not always fair, not always easy. How do you handle failure? So how do you handle failure? And I want to clarify. There's moral failure. There's failure at work, failure in your marriage, failing as a dad, as a friend. But how do we now as adults, raised in the environments we were raised in, raised by, often you have broken men raised by broken men. How do you handle failure? And I want to know kind of what comes to your guys' minds or what you think of. Because I can even think of moments where I go, man, I just blew it. Or I screwed that up because it's a learning process being a dad. I've screwed up at work. How do you guys handle failure? Either of you. I don't know who wants to go first. But
I'll let you have at it.
Oh,
Go
thank
for
you.
it.
he's like,
I'm so kind.
so humble.
As an Enneagram 4, I think I try something one time, and if it doesn't work, I never try it again. And then I give up.
You give up.
Because what's the point? I failed. And why should I keep trying? Why would I waste time trying when it's obviously not possible?
You tried and you failed miserably. The lesson is
Never try.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. This is kind of an interesting thing because, you always hear from experts in their field that, like, you have to do something 10,000 times before you become good at it or skilled at it. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how do I quantify that 10,000 times? Or at least in my head, like, how do you get back up from failure when it's not like an activity? Like, I understand, like learning to do a kickflip on a skateboard. It's like, yeah, you just try this over and over and over.
Repetition.
Until you can figure it out. But when it comes to things like you're talking about, moral failings as a father or a husband or whatever, like, inviting the same failure 10,000 times so that you can get good at it is probably a terrible idea.
10,000 affairs is
exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Like, yeah.
Well, I'll get there.
You have to beat your child 10,000 times to figure out how to be a patient parent. So I don't think that's an effective way to come to the problem. And I would say, like, there's the other school of thought that's like, hey, just don't, like, if you fall off a horse, you have to get back on again. But I can think of several people who fell off a horse and died because of it, or were paralyzed or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, in practical manners, like, if you fail, there's sometimes, due to that failure, there's circumstances that make it impossible to repeat it. Like, if you do screw up your marriage because you have an affair, you're probably not going to get another chance, to try it again.
If you kill someone while drunk driving, you might be going somewhere for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know how you're supposed to handle failure. I know that when I've failed as a person, I usually do honestly isolate for a while and mope and be frustrated about it. But I do always try to come back to it with a fresh, excited perspective and try it again. And then I'm shot down again. You know what I mean? And it goes over and over again. I feel like sometimes, but for the most part, like, how do you deal with failing as a parent? I think you have to be humble and be willing to admit that you're wrong and apologize and seek forgiveness and reconciliation and do that genuinely. And hopefully you get another opportunity and you don't fail the next time. But I think staying humble and not blaming others for your failure and being honest about your failings is maybe an important part of it.
I don't think that's it.
Okay.
I don't think we're no. Okay. But just even that with your kids. Like, 'cause some people might not even think of that. Of like, oh, saying sorry to your kids, like apologizing to yourself. Anything come to mind, Jesus? Anything you think of, like, have you seen any patterns of, like, when you fail, like, what do you do? Are you mad at yourself? Are you just self-deprecating? Do you go, woe is me? Do you say, no, I need to dig in this and see what happened? Or kind of, what are some thoughts you think in life when you go, man, I look back at that memory, but maybe there was times where you blew it and you learned from it. And you're like, man, I've grown so much since then, and I'm not going to do that again. I mean, what are your thoughts on some of this?
I mean, just as you're both saying, I think with that as a parent, it really depends, right? Depends on the situation. Depends on, okay, what did the child do and how did I react to what my daughter did? Is it a justified act that I did for the action that they did? Or did I maybe, did I step over that line and kind of might have said some harsh words I shouldn't have said, you know?
Yes.
And I've definitely been there, I've been in a spot where, yeah, definitely I was like, man, I messed that up. I shouldn't have reacted that way. That was not called for. And so as you were also saying that, and this part took me a while to get to there, because in growing up the way I did, you didn't apologize to your kids.
Of course.
You did not apologize to your kids. As a parent, you were always right. And kids are dumb, so shut up. And you're always wrong.
Yeah.
But obviously we know that's not right. So learning to apologize, honestly, to humble myself and show that to my kids that, hey, look, I am, because as a parent, a lot of times your kids they see you as like Superman. They have this view at you. You're strong. You can do anything, all this stuff. But then you come to them and you ask for forgiveness. They're like, what is this? But it's important. It's really important for them to see that, I believe, that, hey, I'm not perfect. I am not Superman. I don't got this thing called life all figured out.
Yeah.
And teaching them that, I think is a lot more valuable than just being, well, I'm the adult, you're the child. I've been in this thing called life longer than you have, so I know more than you. And be like, well, hey, guess what? Actually, I've been here longer than you, but I hardly know anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think maybe the sooner that you can expose your kids or your spouse or actually anybody you're in a relationship with to the truth that you aren't perfect, that you can't be perfect, and that you're going to fail under the pressure of being perfect for them. The sooner you're freed to actually kind of be yourself and recover from that failure, maybe. The problem that I've experienced as a parent and a husband and a man and a friend and all of that is that I feel like so much of my life, the pressure has been trying to be that perfect guy who doesn't fail. And I feel like I was taught that from an early age, like by my parents, but also by school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you go to school and they're like, okay, what are you supposed to do here? And they're like, get A's, or do good. Oh, a 90 is better than a 70 or whatever.
Don't mess up.
Yeah.
And don't mess up and don't fail. What is it bad to do when you bring home your report card to your parents? What is it bad to do in each class? It's bad to fail.
Yeah.
Failure is negative. And so my whole life growing up, I'm like trying to mask that or avoid that or disguise it or manipulate situations where whatever happened wasn't a failure. So I don't know, like trying to become a whole, real, honest person in my adult age and dealing with failure, I feel like I'm starting from square one a little bit because I'm doing something that's so countercultural that I don't know which direction to go.
I think so. We have to be clear with what we're saying. So when it comes to kickboxing, learning a new skill, carpentry, welding, like failure is different. It's not moral. You have to sit there and go, man, like I remember when I lost my first match, I went, dude, I got obliterated. I'm humiliated. I failed. I blew it in front of my family. And you can either like just be in regret, let your whole identity go shreds. You can ignore it and go, this doesn't bother me. You can be apathetic. You can disengage, but none of those really deal with it versus really walking through and even giving voice to those feelings of, okay, I tried something that a lot of people don't, and I don't feel they appreciate it because they're booing, but they've never been in a fight, yet they know everything you need to do. I didn't do as best as I could, but I'm grateful I tried. You got to ask yourself, do I want to try again? Is this something I'm still going to pursue? Because it wasn't for money. Am I willing to, if I do pursue, okay, well, am I willing to make the sacrifice if I would take to try again? Am I willing to endure this again? Because there's no guarantee I'll win next time. And you have to kind of work through it and stuff like that is like it more, I think of, do you want it? What's my desire? What's my calling? Is this something worth investing in? Because it's not moral. It's do I want to be a welder? Do I want to be a carpenter? If so, okay, well, you need to be able to sit down and go, am I willing to do what it takes? And if so, am I willing to, in those moments when I want to quit, say, no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to submit to that feeling. I'm going to choose to go against what is the easy path. That's one thing. But I think the hard one is, because that you can kind of go, yeah, I wasn't that good of a kickboxer, or yeah, I wasn't that, and that sucks. But what do you do when you snapped at your wife, or you were totally unfair with your kid, or you talk to a friend in such a way that you broke their heart and you go, I know I was wrong. I know I did that. And funny enough, I think of the fact that I look at, because a lot of this stuff will connect to like shame and guilt. I look at the difference between Peter and Judas. Peter denounces Jesus 3 times publicly. Judas betrays him. But Peter comes back into community going, yeah, I blew it. I blew it. I totally screwed. Judas goes more into himself, more into his shame, and hangs himself. So I think, and you guys have touched on this a little bit with a kid, if I am unfair with my kids or just rotten one day, I can either go into myself and go, fine, I'm going to disengage, I'm going to ignore them, I'm going to act like it didn't happen, I don't want to deal with it. Or I can grab them and hug them, embrace it, deal with it, go, I am so sorry I talked to you that way. I love you so much. That wasn't okay. And offer them a better hero of, I am imperfect, I don't know everything, but you know what the cool thing is? Jesus does know everything. Jesus won't fail you. Jesus will never be unfair with you. And that's why you need him to, because I can't be. Yeah. But I will love you unconditionally. I will always be there. And you can always come home. You can always come home. And that's what I kind of see in marriage too, is when you fail, are you hiding, going deeper in yourself, running, going, okay, I'm going to disengage. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to become apathetic. I'm not going to acknowledge it. Or are you going to engage in relationship, turn to her and go, oh, gosh, this is so uncomfortable. Like, hey, I want to talk about this, or I blew it today, or I screwed up. I looked at this and I shouldn't have. I dealt with it this way and I didn't. I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't go perfectly, you know what the cool thing is? You can look yourself in the mirror because you go, no, I engaged. I tried and I went towards it because I get it. It's not fun to, especially when you've hurt someone, engage and look at them, because in a sense you're looking at your own failure, and in a sense it's almost reminding you of the things you don't like about yourself. I'm like, man, I blow it at this, I have a bad temper, I do this. So I think it's a question of, we can't ever be perfect, but what does the recovery look like? What does it look like? Are you running into yourself, or are you leaning into your faith? Are you isolating yourself, or are you leaning into relationship and going, hey, I own it, I did that. I am not making excuses. I'm not saying, well, I'm sorry, but if you hadn't pissed me off, you know, and lean into it. And your kids are going to see where they go, yeah, you know what? Sean, Jesus, like, they ain't perfect, but I can come home and they're there for me. And I trust those guys. And like, yeah, Jesus had a rough day, but I think he really loves me. I really think he does. And that's something versus some lie of, oh, my parents never argued. Oh, my parents are perfect. I go, bull. That is a lie. You may not have seen them argue, and you may think, no, I just want to be good enough and not abusive. I want to be there. And I really want to be someone that they don't say I'm perfect, but they go, when I'm in a terrible spot, my dad is not terrifying or the guy I want to run from. He and my mom, like, I trust him. Disagreements aside, I really think they have like best intentions, and like what was good for me, that was what was in their mind. I don't know. That's kind of some thoughts I have. So yeah. Are you rolling another one? I'll smoke. You rolling another one?
Yeah, I will.
Roll master over there.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think we're going to go down this rabbit hole you touched on a little bit, man, because I think it needs to be talked about. But no, I totally agree. I mean, that's one of the things that I try to really make sure with my kids is that they know I love them, regardless of who I am, the broken man, the sinful man that I am. They know I love them. They know that discipline is a part of life also, you know. So they understand when they are disciplined, hey, Dad is not doing this because Dad hates us. Yeah. And Dad wants us to be miserable. Mm-hmm. They, especially like my older girls, they're 10 and 9. So they're starting to understand now, like, okay, this is happening because we messed up. Yeah. And we shouldn't have done that. Now, Dad is not doing this to be a dick. Yeah. Because he hates us or doesn't love us. No, they know. I've sat down with them and I've told them, I'm like, look, and we've walked through scripture, you know, and I've taken them through scripture where it's talking about that God disciplines those who he loves. And I'm like, look, I don't discipline you because I hate you, because I don't love you, because no, I want the best for you, baby girl. And I discipline you because what you did was wrong. Yeah. You could have hurt your sister. You could have hurt yourself. You could have done X, Y, and Z, whatever. And that is just not okay. That's not acceptable. That's not, no. But like I said, I make sure that also the way I'm delivering that talk with them, that it's soaked in love. Yes. You know, because especially as men, we gotta really check our tone. Yes. You know, absolutely. At how we speak. And I'm pretty loud when I speak. Like, I don't know what that's like. Got this deep voice. There you go. Now listen here, children. You know, so I gotta, you know, I understand I'm talking to my little girls. So I'm very soft-spoken, but straightforward with my message that I'm trying to get to them. You know, so, and I'm seeing that now whenever they mess up and I do discipline them, I can see it because they won't be mad at me. They'll cry if depending on what they did, you know, they'll cry because they feel bad because they understood what they did and they're like, man, you know, they feel like they let me down. This is what they've told me. So I'll be like, well, why are you crying now, baby girl? Like, you know, it's like, well, I just feel like I let you down, Dad. And I was like, it's like, no, you let me down. I'm like, but, you know, like I said, I'm seeing that in them. So I'm seeing how they're understanding what I'm doing. Okay. You know what I mean? As a father. So that's pretty awesome. But the rabbit hole, though, that I was talking about going in is especially with us men and in the church. Okay. As you were talking, you mentioned you threw little things in there of, hey, I did something. Yeah. You confessing to your wife. Yeah. You know, we grew up, man. I think you can both agree. We grew up. We've been growing up, and especially even more now in a society that is so over-sexualized. Oh my gosh. Man, that it's like, there's nothing that you can do. You can't pick up your phone. You can't turn on the TV. You can't go outside without it being in your face and being shoved down your throat. Yeah. And pornography. Let's just go to it. Let's say it. Porn. You know? That's been something that, man, I hate it. Yeah. Like, I hate it. I honestly hate that it exists. I hate that. It hasn't fixed your loneliness and like made everything better for you, man? Yeah, that's why I'm real happy. That's why there's only one porn site, because that's all we need and it fixes everything. Right, with hundreds of thousands of videos. Yeah, but I don't think it's talked about enough, you know? And it's not, I think it's something that is always just kind of swept under the rug. Yeah. And a lot of men, not even just in the church, but I mean, just in general, are just, it's such a big problem in our society, man. And I think it's something that really needs to be talked about, because it's something that I can say I've gotten way better at it. But there was times in my relationship where, man, it really caused some conflict. And I really felt like, I felt like crap. Yeah. You know, like I said, because I failed. You know, that failure we're talking about. Well, this, as a husband, whenever I fell to that sin, to that temptation, dude, like, I just didn't even want to. There was times I was like, just God, I'm broken. Just take me already. Like
Kill me.
Yeah, kill me because I'm tired of sinning against you, and I'm tired of sinning against my wife. But like I said, we live in this world where what was it? What grade does Cher start at? 3rd or 4th?
Sure, I started in 4th grade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right.
After many awkward conversations with my brother. Yeah. Yeah.
But what are we told as very young boys in that class? We're told, one, pornography is normal. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's those urges that we want of seeing it. They're normal. They're okay.
Yeah.
Like, don't feel bad. You know, masturbating. It's healthy for you. You should do it. You know, as many times as you want. It's your hormones. Mm-hmm. You gotta, that's just your body. It's how you evolved.
Right.
You know, so we were fed all these things as young kids to see this as something so normal that it's no surprise that it's such a big problem in men. And I mean, in women as well. I think a lot more in men, you know, and in the church as well. I think, like I said, you know, for myself now at this point, you know, me and my wife, we've sat down and we talked, and I've told her, you know, for the longest time, I avoided that talk. I avoided like coming up to her and tell her like, hey, I have this problem. Like, hey, like this is a sin that is like just taking over my life at points in my life, you know, and I need your help as my wife. Like, I need you to understand what I'm telling you right now, because that's something hard, you know.
Yeah.
Because honestly, what you're saying is, hey, I cheated on you, right?
Yeah, by Christ standards.
I've cheated on you. In my heart, I have cheated on you. And dude, that sucks. Like, that sucks. Like that, when I've had that talk with her, like, I just broke down crying because I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Wow.
You know, like, I don't want to do this, but I still find myself doing it. You know, I still find myself falling into that sin. So it's like, okay, what do we do? As men, as Christian men, what do we do?
It's so interesting because I think sometimes when I bring up this topic, people think it's this vendetta I have against porn actresses, and it's funny. That's not my issue. Actually, isn't with them or a judgment on them. Especially when I find people who have been brought into the porn industry underage or through sex, like they're actually not the ones I'm critiquing. And if it's a non-Christian who doesn't do that, I'm not surprised when someone who doesn't live by my standard doesn't live by my standard. My issue is I've seen such a huge issue of porn and men where it became one more, and there are lots of damaging things where I actually wish we'd talk about more that men use in the same way, but they're just more socially acceptable. But it's one more way that I've seen predominantly, and it's changing now statistically, predominantly, I've seen men use it to disconnect, where instead of really building emotional maturity or learning true intimacy or even learning how to have sex with a woman that isn't the stuff you see in porn compared to what actually arouses women, all that, so different. And that's my issue is, like, yeah, you can rail all day about, well, this is happening with the women and look what you're looking at. Yeah, but I see there's this emptiness and this lack of emotional maturity with a lot of men and this lack of being able to have true intimacy. And I see porn just like compound it, make it worse, where I've seen men, the biggest issue wasn't to me of, oh, how dare you have sexual desires. Well, that's not the bad part. Yeah. The bad part was I saw them get lonelier and lonelier and not develop a mature sense of sexual intimacy, because I don't think our desires are inherently evil, or a fantasy is inherently evil of like, oh, I desire a beautiful woman who I'm attracted to, or I love my wife this way. It's when those aren't met, or when they're broken, or when you don't have strong emotional maturity or know how to be intimate, or whatever it is, because just sexual damage, it might be being molested, lots of things. When they go sideways, when you try to fulfill them in a way that's not healthy, when you try to meet those needs outside of a mature, adult, healthy relationship, I see them go to these dark places where they're more and more alone, more and more isolated, depressed, mad. They end up hating themselves. And I've seen this even with non-Christians where they can't find a girl that they really connect with. They can't find an awesome, healthy relationship. and they just look more and more at porn. And this isn't a hatred of women. I'm looking going, no, I just want us to have healthy relationship. And I also don't want everything to be so over sexualized. Like,
Yeah.
I want us to be able to say, hey, and put your hand on someone's shoulder, and not everything is that. And I just think, to be honest, if I can be real, I just think the videos are BS. The videos, I feel like, make women look like gullible fools who easily cheat, who can easily be coerced, or you can convince them into sex, or maybe pressure them a little bit, which is even creepier. Some of them borderline rape of, oh, well, if you, trick them, or really, if you push them into, eventually they'll give in, because they all really want it. It shows them as unfaithful. It just, the way it portrays humans to me, I know people say, well, it's just fantasy. Yeah, but portrays humans as terrible.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're programming yourself, okay, I'm gonna ejaculate and have this chemical response to this scenario that is programmed in my mind now, showing women as just, also shows women as obsessed with men. All they live for is to have sex with men.
Right.
There are these foolish creatures who are just obsessed and just desperate. And even that, I go, that feels like to me this unhealthy male fantasy. I don't know why people are cool with that. So my judgment really isn't in like, oh my gosh, you want to look at naked women? Well, I'm not shocked by that. My thing is, I feel like it just fosters alienation. It doesn't help to build emotional maturity or vulnerability. And I feel like it's too easy, to be honest. It's easy to look at that versus, all right, I have to actually connect with my partner today, see how they are, emotionally connect, talk with them, build them up. I'm physically touching them. I'm hugging them. I'm kissing them. We're built up. We're connected in every area. And now this seems like the proper culmination of that. Versus porn is easy. I'm sorry. I can look up like 20 videos on my phone right now, and it is anything you want. So it's not, I don't know. I want to be clear on that. I'm not judging. I even know people, I've met people who do porn, non-Christians. I'm not surprised, and they don't believe what I believe. But what it fosters and what I've seen in relationships, I've seen people laud it and say, oh, it's not that bad. But I've also seen it do a lot of damage. So I don't know. For me, it just made me lonely.
Yes, absolutely. 100% true. And I think it comes down to goals in life, I guess, for lack of a better term. So what if your goal is easiness? What if your goal is convenience?
A spark flew in my eye.
It's been a while. That's a throwback.
Okay.
What if your goal is convenience? What if your goal is doing the least? Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Once again, how many of us, and I'm one of these people, have been raised saying the easiest way is the best way, right? Yeah. Work smart, not hard.
Which drives me nuts a little bit.
Well,
the idea that working hard.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. It's terrible. But I'm saying it's ingrained in some people, and it really is in me. I literally can remember as a child saying, "Well, okay, this is like the noob tube analogy, which I'll try to explain a little bit. But when you're in a video game, right? Seth and I would play Call of Duty or Halo or whatever. Yeah. You want to get whatever weapon, usually a grenade launcher or rocket launcher that gives you an edge, right? Yeah. Where you are this malevolent god and you have more power over everybody, and it's easy. And it is awesome to just like hear people on your headphones crying and angry because you keep murdering them savagely, and it's not fair. And you get some kind of buzz from the power from how unfair it is. But what I'm saying is there are people who that literally is what they're searching for in life, that edge. They're looking for the noob tube of life. And for some people, that is, I guess, efficiency, right? They say, hey, I'm never going to be the good parent, or I'm never going to be the good husband, or I'm never going to be the one who's fulfilled sexually. Yeah. So I'm going to take the most efficient route to doing those things. And you find at the end of that route that it's loneliness, depression, sadness, isolation. It's never the things that you were created to be, but you don't know that usually until you get there, unfortunately. So it has to do with a lot with what your goals are. If your goals in life are happiness, well, I don't know any other route that you would take besides the easiest, quickest, simplest route. But the reality that, hopefully most of us know is happiness is a lie. There's no such thing. There's no, and I'm saying within our corporeal, sinful bodies, right? Until we are removed from this plane of existence, there really truly is no completely 100% satisfying, fulfilling happiness.
Yeah.
We are hopefully reaching towards a goal of happiness when we're reunited perfectly with our Savior, right? But until then, what are we doing? What is your goal until then? And if your goal until then is seeking some type of happiness, then you're deluded.
I think, just to put a side note in, so there was a book I read called Unwanted, and he did a study of people with what they would classify as unwanted sexual behavior. So either they buy a prostitute, or they have multiple affairs, or they're looking at pornography. He classified that just because to them that was unwanted.
Yeah.
He was able to pull out of these people so interesting. Based on their story, he would see the same thing over and over, like in categories of, this person does this unwanted sexual behavior, and he would find the same markers over and over in childhood of either abuse, trauma, or different things that happen. And some people, based on their story, and I'm doing cliff notes, he can almost guess what type of pornography they were looking at.
Oh, wow.
And the ideas of, this is actually about power, or this is actually about getting this thing, this makes you feel this, or this piece, or when you were a kid, this was the one secret you had control over. And it was over and over. Now, the guy's a believer, but he is licensed, has a degree. And it was so interesting, him saying, he goes, I'm not saying, these are fantastic things that help you. He goes, but we're seeing more and more that you need to walk with people through these things. Yeah. And that just saying stop with no further help fails.
Yeah.
Just saying, so
Definitely.
He goes, especially when you have a girl who her dad touched her for 10 years and she's in unhealthy relationship after unhealthy relationship. And you say, well, just stop being an idiot. Well, just stop. Well, my dad used to touch me. Well, just stop. So he's seeing a lot of markers, and he did a study with thousands of people. It's interesting to read, just of even looking at stuff of he knows some people where he's like, doesn't matter. He goes, when they want to celebrate, they need to have an orgasm. When they're depressed, they need to have an orgasm. When they're mad, he goes, they have no other way of self-soothing or celebrating than this. He goes, why aren't we stopping to say, hey man, I know the Bible teaches we all sin, but why are you broken in this specific way, in this specific area? Why are you buying prostitutes? Because not everyone buys a prostitute. So it's interesting that I've actually been encouraging more and more guys to not in isolation just buckle down. Of course, talk to your wife. Of course, pray about it.
Yeah.
I've been saying, get into community, sometimes maybe even counselor, to walk through, hey, is there something hardcore here? Because there's a difference between, I kind of I'm wrestling with some things versus I've been buying a prostitute every week. I need to sit down with someone and go, hey, what's your story? Because there's something there, some scratch you're trying to itch, and I don't even think it's just sex. There's something deep in there. And I don't know. The book was just interesting. And I'm not saying, you got to read it and go, oh, well, this guy needs to be my pastor. But it's it was interesting him doing the study of most of his stuff is based on their story and actually being able to say, that's interesting. Why do you look at this pornography where it's always someone else who's feeling ashamed and you're in power over them? Did you ever stop to think that? They go, oh, it doesn't matter. And they keep going back to it. So it's interesting how he has an emphasis on community, on openness, on vulnerability, because he says if you just try to isolate and hide in the dark, he goes, it doesn't get addressed.
Nope.
It doesn't. But anyway, just a side note.
And I'll add on to it because it's true. And I'll open up to you guys. It'll be good. I can testify to that because I myself, everything you just said, that's what's helping me. And I've realized kind of what was controlling that addiction for me. So as a young kid, I was sexually abused. I was sexually abused by family on top of that. So people who I loved, people who as a young kid, you don't think they're going to hurt you in that kind of way, right? So I was sexually abused multiple times from the age of, my first memory of it, I couldn't be had to be anywhere from like 3 to 4. And it went on all the way till probably I was 7, 8. So that messed me up, like in ways that, I mean, dude, it was one of the things that from previous things that we've talked in the other podcast that took me into gangs, that took me into just hating everyone and everything, you know, cause I was this young kid. I was like, man, you know, if the people that I love did this to me, like, why not somebody that's not even family? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but relating that to this, like, for me, sexuality at a very young age was just messed up. It was messed up for me. Yeah. It was distorted. It was that, you know, it was who has the power is the one that can do what they want. Right. And so for me, that was one of the things is that I never want anyone to have that kind of power over me again. Okay. I wanted to be the one that had that power over them. Right.
Wow.
So when I realized that, and this was, I mean, man, a year ago, me and my wife had a marriage counseling because, I mean, we were going through some stuff, and we came to the pastors at church, and I came to Michael.
Yeah.
And I told him, man, I was like, hey, I'm tired of this. Yeah. So going, as you're saying, that's what he was saying, like, come into community. Yeah. Going into that, I realized that I can't do this alone anymore, right? Because I was trying to fix this problem by myself. I wasn't trying. I thought I had the power to do it, right? I thought that I can do this thing on my own. I can fix this. Yeah. But all it did was, you know, I can go a period of time, but I just didn't find myself right back where, you know, in that same sin. So it was realizing that I couldn't do it by myself, first of all. It's coming to God, asking for forgiveness. It's coming to my wife, asking for forgiveness. It's coming to my brothers and asking for help.
Wow.
And that's what's helped me a lot this last year, honestly, and not to say that I have completely left this. I've still fallen, you know, but I can say that I'm in a way better place than what I used to be before. So now I'm kind of at this place where I'm kind of just trying to rewire, you know, brain, my brain to think differently, because I mean, that was my life for 33, not 33 years. I wasn't looking at porn for that long. Yeah. I would have been a baby, but 20 something years. Yes. That was my life, right? You're not just going to change that overnight.
No.
You know?
Absolutely not.
So, you know, as you're saying from that book, man, I can totally relate to that. I mean, I'm literally doing that this last year now, is to where realizing, okay, you know what? I can't do this by myself because the devil's just going to have his way with me. You know, he's just this if I'm trying to deal with this by myself. So it's confessing my sin and asking for help and having faithful brothers that are willing to walk with you with that, you know. Really helps. I mean, you hold one another accountable because, man, you'd be surprised how many of us just deal with it. And you just really need somebody to be there, you know, to really walk with you. Like I said, not just somebody that says, hey, stop, but doesn't do anything about it. Yeah. You know, I mean, what good does that do? Nothing.
I not only admire your bravery, honestly, and I don't say I like you are surrounded by two guys. You are our utmost respect, just so you and I think the thing that breaks my heart is, one, how often the church ignores sexual abuse, does not speak of it, which doesn't help. But two, why do we not see how serious our stories are? That at an age when you should have been taught who's safe, am I secure, am I loved, who am I? The people who are in charge of that break that trust.
Yeah.
And not seeing the ramifications of, well, what will that do the rest of my life? Because I mean, the questions of, okay, does that teach me that family isn't safe? Does that teach me that this aspect of my life is something secret, it's something shameful? And we ignore that of, I know what the Bible says. I've read the thing. Yes, it says everyone sins, but it doesn't answer why everyone sins in this specific way, in this degree, why I have this struggle, you have that one, why I have... And some things are not sin. They're struggles due to being a victim of it. Like Christ, when we look at the cross, he frees us as victimizers of sin, but he also frees us from the power of sin, which means he frees us as victims of sin. It's victor and substitute. So he substitutes as, takes the punishment we deserve. And he's also Christ victor over sin because it's enslaved us. We are both. And all the things you could ask of Jesus, well, what lesson did you learn? And what did that make you feel? And what lessons did I teach you at early age of what to be scared of? And what can you trust? And what's comfortable and what's right? And we skip over that. And I feel we do a huge disservice because your story, and I want to be clear, we didn't plan this. I think people think we don't plan crap. Your story matters. It matters. When Jesus goes up to a woman in the well, he doesn't just say, you're a whore, you need to repent. He goes, yeah, you're right. That guy isn't your husband. She's like, what? He talks to her. Yeah. We need to be able to hear stories. And here's the thing I would suggest to people when someone confides in you, especially what Jesus is talking about. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. If you can't be the guy, just be honest. Say, hey man, I'm not the guy. I'm even a worse spot than you. But if you're going to walk with them through it, if a guy says, dude, I was beat at a young age by my drunk family member over and over and over. If you're going to walk with them through it, you better walk with them through it. I don't know. I'm grateful for you to bring us in that story. I am because I feel honored that in our brotherhood, you are being brave enough to say, this is a spot that was broken and I'm laying you guys in on that. So I just appreciate that. So
no problem.
Sean doesn't appreciate, but I really do.
I do. Yeah, I was going to say too, like in the realm of failure and dealing with failure, there.
Yeah. Oh. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize.
There's like this. We have a tendency, again, probably a cultural thing, but we have a tendency to think that things are like pass fail. It's like you either do it perfectly or you fail. And when you were talking about being good enough, Seth, like I don't want to be a perfect dad. Well, I do want to be a perfect dad, but I'll settle for good enough. Kind of establishing what that standard is super important because there's a lot of stuff that could be considered good enough, but because of how we've been raised or how culture has kind of informed our personalities, we feel like any failure is utter failure. And that's not true. Obviously, the narrative of the Bible is that there's failure everywhere, but because of grace, all of that failure, all of the bad things can be meant for good somehow.
Made right, too.
Yeah.
Made right.
Yeah. And so I think that's super important, especially when it comes to like any type of sexual dysfunction. It's like
addiction, broken,
I guess it covers more than just that, but it's like, there will be failure. I think we can all count on there being failure, but in the end, it's not pass fail. In the end, it's what you do with that failure. And like you were saying, Jesus, having brothers to support you is super important. But also being able to confess that to somebody who you trust is super important. That's where I feel like the sexual brokenness is such a rough thing because that puts you in a state sometimes where you don't feel like you have the trust of anybody. Like in your situation where your family members, the people you were supposed to be able to trust the most, were the ones who are complicit in this. It's like, who do you go to?
Yeah.
Who can you trust to confess this to?
You might start picking who you trust. You're like, I'll pick who I surround myself with.
Exactly. And then you just make yourself into essentially somebody who surrounds themselves with people who are going to not make them feel too bad about what they've done and maybe even give them a little bit of license to continue doing it as opposed to like seeking true and honest healing that starts at the root of those things. From childhood or whatever, all of that stuff definitely ties back to childhood, but there's a lot of adult events that I think inform our decisions as well. And all of those things are stuff that has to be confessed. I think that's why confession is so important, because if you don't confess it, I feel like it's in some way you're not admitting it to yourself. You know what I mean? And if you can't accept like the reality of the situation, I don't think you'll ever have any reason to attempt a change, you know? And sanctification is like the goal, right? I would think.
It's pizza.
Now,
Wrong.
question.
Incorrect. Oh gosh.
That's my question actually, is sanctification our goal? Because I feel like sometimes as therapeutic deists, sanctification isn't our goal. And especially like some bad theology folks would say, I'm hell on wheels until Jesus comes back, because we're waiting for the sanctification to occur when Christ comes back and separates the wheat from the tares or whatever. But I don't think that that's the idyllic way of living in this state where we're waiting for Jesus to come back. I feel like sanctification is an important part of our lives that gets overlooked sometimes. And so how is failure framed in your sanctification, I guess, is the question.
Well, I'm glad I get the fun questions. Here's the thing I would say. I think it's hard when you look at what you mean by goal, because, I mean, ultimately it talks about, what is the chief end of man? It's, loving and worshiping, God and enjoying Him forever. Some people talk about the new heaven, new earth coming down, coming to full realization. I mean, my ultimate goal is I want to be reunited with my Savior, like my ultimate one. But I think to a certain degree, a big pursuit with Christians is sanctification. I would say it's a core pursuit. It's a core pursuit. We want to be more like the King we worship. And you know what? Even non-Christians don't like it when Christians say one thing and do another. I mean, even they look and go, hey, we kind of wish you acted like Christians. When it comes to failure, I would say this. Obviously, like, we know the standard, even when it comes to not just our sexuality, but just being generous, being compassionate, being humble. When any time we don't meet the standard, I think failure should not be seen as just something we ignore or stuff down or say, okay, I reject that, or I'm mad, or I denounce that. Like, yeah, evil things we should denounce. I get that. But I actually think we should listen to it. And I'm taking this from the book too. I feel a little bit of the same when we have those issues of lust or other stuff. And I'm not saying enable or fully accept. I'm saying listen, like, look and go, instead of just saying, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Sit and actually go, wait. What did you actually do? Well, I just got mad. No, what did you actually do? Sit, go. You just snapped at your wife for no reason. Where did that come from, man? What could you in that moment pray about, look through in your story, and find, like, what opportunity is in there to find maybe a part of your story that's hurting or broken or just like a exposed nerve that you would now have the opportunity to invite God into to heal. Because sometimes we do this, we go, okay, I won't do that anymore, I stop. Hold on. What did you actually do though? And what is it inviting you into? Is it giving you an opportunity to maybe look at your story and go, is there an exposed nerve you're not aware of? Well, no, I'm just being a jerk. Hold on. Your wife gave a small correction and you immediately took it as criticism. Why was that? Well, it's not a big deal. But what if there's something that could be healed? What if there's an opportunity there? So I don't think shame, I don't think failure should be stuff that we go, okay, that's not a part of sanctification. I actually think there's sometimes stepping stones or a jumping on point to enhance or bolster or boost our sanctification of, it's one thing to say, just stop it. But if you come back to your wife and go, hey, so I was thinking it over. For some reason, when you talked like that, I went back to every time I was criticized growing up. Like, that was immediately what I felt in my heart. It's not you. I'm not blaming you. I'm not excusing it. I'm just telling you the story. And to start praying about that, to rewire that, to think, hey, Seth, correction is not just brutal critique. Correction is not everyone's out to get you. And start changing those things. To go, because if you go, all right, I'll stop thinking these thoughts. Well, hold on. what do you think? It's nothing. Well, hold on. And you gotta be honest, dude, you keep looking up stuff on the internet about older women that you dominate. You're not curious at all why that was what you immediately went to and you keep going to. Well, it doesn't matter. It might, man. I think it totally does. So I think failure is something that instead of just outright throwing away, we should be curious of. We should say, not just say, okay, I'll just muscle up. No, say, God, what are you inviting me into? What, like, is this a wound that I haven't addressed? Because who knows? What if it's this? All right, here's an example. I used to, when Maverick got mad, I didn't understand why. No, when Maverick got hurt, my first impulse would be anger, like really hurt when he's like really hurt. My first feeling would be anger. I go, why am I angry? He's hurting. But I'd always be like, if you just listen to me, you wouldn't be hurt. What are you doing? And I'd stop myself and go, sorry, bud. I love you. Here, come here. I'm so sorry. And I'm not talking like little. If he just bumped into stuff, I'm like, oh, hey, buddy. But when he got really hurt, I'd go to anger. And I'm like, whoa, where's that coming from? And I started being curious and I go, wait, the second he got really hurt, I felt fear before the anger. I go, wait. And I go, wait, this person in my life, every time I got really hurt, he got angry immediately. And what I realized was, and this was how I was raised, when he got hurt, I would immediately feel this fear of, oh my gosh, I wasn't paying attention, got hurt, and be almost feeling ashamed of, gosh, I'd have to admit that he got hurt because of me, because I wasn't paying attention, I wasn't doing this. So instead of actually embrace that, be vulnerable, actually deal with that shame, actually feel that, actually sit down and face that, I turned to him, well, if you would listen, you wouldn't have been hurt. Oh gosh, I can't believe if you would just listen, you wouldn't get hurt. Don't you get what you're doing? Gosh, and get mad at him because I wasn't actually mad. I was scared and I was ashamed. So instead, the next time he got really hurt and I felt that rush up, instead of having that, oh gosh, no, I can't face that. I can't face that. I wasn't paying attention. I'm the adult, but that's not on him. I'm supposed to be taking care of him. I hugged him. I went, just gritted my teeth. I go, Maverick, I am so sorry. I am the adult. I was not paying attention. And because I wasn't paying attention, you suffered as a result of that and got hurt. I love you. And he's just shocked. Because I had one time where a family member, I got really hurt and goes, dang it, if you would just listen to me. And I did that same pattern. But it took listening and going through my story. And you know what? I don't get pissed now. If he slams his head into my crotch, I get pissed. He's done that. But when he just gets hurt now, I have grown and seen healing where the first emotion I pull from isn't just rage. And you don't just answer that by saying, well, you're depraved, knock it off. You need to be able to invite God into that moment to say, what can I learn from this? What's the opportunity? That's what I would say.
So wait, are you saying that you are supposed to seek healing
I can
through...
tell you we start.
No. Through...
I
You're
actually
supposed to
agree.
seek healing through you yourself analyzing your own failures and determining where they come from instead of just believing the gospel more.
Instead of just gospeling.
Yeah. Who do you think you are?
I knew there was something.
No, really, no. I do think there is a tendency to say what you're saying right now, which I think is profound. I think there's a tendency to say that is
heresy,
being legalistic, or
worldly.
that
I've
is
been told
being
it's
a
liberal.
fear of man, or
It's liberal,
or
and,
yeah, I guess it could
you
even
know.
be construed as liberal. But there's
That's a whole.
but that's you taking things into your own hands instead of letting Jesus come and heal you. You know what I mean? And obviously, there's an excellent rebuttal to that. But I don't know that it ever gets to that rebuttal in the circles that we run around.
I would ask if they go to a hospital when their arm's broke and say, how dare you not trust God to heal?
Exactly.
And they go, well, but God gave us doctors for a reason. I go, and he gave us counselors and therapists. So you're saying he allows physical healing doctors, but not mental and emotional. I have to go to a gym if I want to get stronger. God doesn't just make my arms. David, I guarantee, still practiced with a sword. Are we going to say he didn't trust God?
And
that heretic liberal David.
No, what I'm
Such a
saying,
liberal.
though,
He probably voted for Biden.
I'm saying that there is a
I know.
large population of people that do believe that by believing in God more, you can get strong without going to the gym.
And you know what? That's what they think. I feel there's a balance in the Bible that somehow we trust God's control, and somehow, though, he still tells us to take things seriously and take human responsibility seriously and act in obedience. I don't think it would give commands if he didn't expect people to try pursue obedience. Now, it's in accordance with him, and there's a lot of paradox in there because you get into how much, well, God is in control and he's planning things, we're responsible, we're held accountable. So there's a lot of paradox there. But he gives commands to people who act, who pursue obedience, who verbally repent, who physically get baptized, who personally come up and take communion, who, get married, who die, who weep, humans have actions. So I'm saying in those actions, invite God in. That's what I would say. So, and everyone else is wrong.
No, and I agree with you with that. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, when me and my wife were going through our marriage counseling, I can't remember the name of the book, if it saved my life right now, but part of it had to do with healing.
Okay.
Exactly about healing with problems that you had, right? So for myself, like the porn addiction or how certain things that my kids do or my wife did would set off a reaction, right? Part of the book, as we're going through the counseling, we're reading the book, it's this part where you make a long line, and it's supposed to be your life story up to where you're at right now, right? And the top half, you put good memories that you can remember, like that's stood out to you.
It's not the grief recovery book, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I did that book. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a fantastic
There you
book. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
It is that book, grief recovery. Yeah. And then bottom is any bad negatives in your life. And you draw a line depending on how much it affected. If it didn't affect you so much, it's a small, short line. If it's something that really impacted your life, it's a longer one, right? So, man, that thing, it's an awesome book. It really is. And having brothers and sisters that walk with us through that and doing that with us, we realized a lot of those things. We realized how much healing we needed, in just certain areas in our lives. I'll share, it's not even about me, so I'm sorry, babe. I'm going to share your story. But I think it's like, it'll really help people out. For her, she really had a hard time as a mom. She always had this feeling like she was failing at it. Like she was a horrible mom, a bad mom. And I would always try to encourage her for like, no, you're not. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're awesome. Yeah. Like, you are so selfless. Like, you do so much. Like, I don't know what you see in the mirror, but you are not seeing what I'm seeing. And I would, you know what I mean? Like, I love her, but there was nothing that I could do that would help it, right? Until we did this. We went through the counseling. We did that book. We did that life story thing. And one of the things that really like messed her up as a child was the relationship between her and her mom, right? Like her mom didn't treat her the way a mom should, right? So we came to realize that this is her feelings of feeling like a failure as a mom because of certain things that how she would react with the kids of, the triggers, those triggers. They did something that triggered her, those memories from when she was young. So then she would pretty much take that image that she was being her mom, doing the same thing that her mom was doing. And man, like it broke my heart because there's times that she would just break down and cry and be like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve my kids. Like, I suck as a mom. And I'm like, no, don't say that. So realizing like, hey, you know what we need, what you need in this area is healing. You never got healed from that. So, and that's what I'm saying. I agree as what you're saying, but it's okay. How do we go by healing from these things that have happened so many years ago, right? And it is really surrendering it to God. Absolutely. And trusting God with it, giving it to God and having that, that life with your brothers and sisters where you have brothers and sisters that you can bring this up to, and they're not going to come and try to fix you because they can't, right? I mean, me as her husband, but like,
that's right.
How many times do you not see that though? Yeah. Honestly, like in the church, where, oh, just do this, or hey, I'm sorry, that was back then, things are better now. Well, that doesn't fix the problem, Yeah. So it's having brothers and sisters or having a community that really comes around you and builds you up.
Yes.
And tells you the truth, like, hey, that was not okay. What happened to you? What happened to you was not okay. It was evil. It was a sin that was committed against you for so long. And that is not okay.
Yeah.
That it was not your fault, like that happened to you. Because a lot of times that's something that, even for myself with what I dealt with, I thought it was my fault that it happened to me, right? That I was abused. I was like, well, if I would have done this and this and that wouldn't have happened. Same thing for her, whatever it is. So even at times when we're being victimized as young children or even adults, a lot of times we end up blaming ourselves for it happening, right? And then now we're carrying this throughout our lives and failing at these things, not knowing why. Why can I not get over this? Why do I keep on failing at being a father? Why do I keep on failing at being a husband? Why do I keep on failing at whatever? And it really is, honestly, it's okay. I need to really sit down and look back at my life and see why this, like, where did this start? Where did this begin? Everything has a beginning. Everything. And it's going back to that beginning and honestly healing from that. There's no way you're going to get better if you don't heal from it. I mean, it's just a baggage that you've been carrying your whole life, and it's just it's gotten heavier and heavier.
Gosh. I don't have anything more. I actually think that's gold. I think this actually turned out better than I thought.
Oh, good.
I just had like 19 questions on failure. I was going to bring up sports next, but where are we?
We're good.
Okay. I don't have time.
Check this out.
Let me see.
I want to throw some scripture at us too.
Yeah.
All right. Because one of the things also as a Christian that, as you were talking about sanctification, right?
Yeah.
That's our goal, right? But when you mess up, when you sin, you feel like crap. I remember as a young Christian, I found myself like in a really bad time, like where find myself constantly sinning. I'm like, man, am I even saved?
Jeez.
Right?
Yeah, that's the question.
Am I even saved? Am I like, I'm not bearing any fruit during this season. I'm not this, I'm not that. Like, and obviously we can agree that's the enemy attacking us, right? But Romans chapter 7, Paul, is something that really encouraged me in my walk when I fall. It's understanding why we fall, right? And we forget we're still sinners, We're Christians. We're saved by grace, thank God. But we're still sinners nonetheless.
Yeah.
Not until he makes it right, And that's something that I've been kind of it's been on my mind lately that like, especially throughout this whole things that we've been going through, as a nation, man, is that the way I've been seeing a lot of Christians react to this, man, is, it saddens me and makes me angry. It's like, man, come on, guys. Like, this is not the gospel.
Yeah.
This is not the gospel. Like, you're trying to paint that we're supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to have this figured out. We're supposed to not mess up when, no, that's not it. We're going to mess up. Mm-hmm. Now it's what do we do with that? Do we keep to ourselves and try to deal with it by ourselves, or do we turn to God in repentance and be like, God, I'm sorry. All right. So let's see. And I'll start in verse 14. It says Romans chapter 7, verse 14. It says, for we know that the law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh, sold under sin. For I do not understand my own actions. For I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Now if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law that it is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing. Now if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. So I find it to be a law that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand. For I delight in the law of God in my inner being. But I see in my members another law waging war against the law of my mind, and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then I myself serve the law of God with my mind, but with my flesh I serve the law of sin.
You will now be reading up to Rev. So buckle in, folks, because we are.
Oh man, let's go.
No, that is, and you know what? This, for people who don't know, that's, we have a lot of people on this podcast, but like, that's the bulk of like Sean and I's life and Jesus' life, is that when we live a life, that should be what directs us. It shouldn't be, we've gone into this a lot, but my first citizenship is not American.
Oh.
But it's a rough time out there, and I'm seeing some things that concern me with how Christians respond. And I don't think it's my job to go out and judge non-Christians. I look at Christians and go, we're supposed to be the ones with hope. What's going on, guys? What's happening here? You're walking around like you got no hope. So
I mean, I look at non-Christians, and I totally understand why they're doing what they're doing, why they're reacting the way they're reacting. But as you say, brother and sister. Yeah. And that's something that a lot of them, they don't understand it. Right? Oh, you're not supposed to. Actually, yes, I am. I'm supposed to. I'm close. I'm told to. I'm like, but obviously, also we pay attention on how we.
You're supposed to be loud and rude about it.
Yeah, punch him in the face a couple times.
Do you want to close this out, or you want me to do all details? Or
yeah, I'll close this out. I just want to say thanks, Jesus, for coming. Yeah. This was great.
Thanks
for inviting me.
Yeah, that was
our first guest back from the Rona, so we appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for being open with us, and thanks for broadening our conversation past all the genius I have and all the tomfoolery that Seth wants to talk about.
It's me, baby.
But yeah, so thank you for coming, and this has been Tales from the Ditch with Jesus Ojeda.
Hey.
How was that? How's the D?
Hey, I mean, I can get better, but I'll take that over. Or
that's what they always say about me.
Jesus McGonaghan.
McGillicuddy. So yeah, this has been Tales from the Ditch. Thank you for listening. If you want to support us, like our great friend Judah Holland has supported us. Yeah. You can send us money directly, which is what Judah did, which we appreciate that. Yeah, because we bought Del Taco with that money.
We did. We bought Del Taco tonight. Yeah.
And if you want to do the Patreon thing, it's patreon.com/Tales from the Ditch. If you want to send us an email or talk about it, or if you want to still hit Seth up because he's still accepting emails, or if you want to talk about this type of stuff, if you are interested in maybe discussing your story or getting help for some type of addiction,
there are resources for
there is stuff, and we can point you in the right direction. We're not the right direction, but we can point you in the right direction. So send us an email at talesfromtheditch@gmail.com, and that's it.
Zip it up.
Sip it out.
Dude, I burned myself like 3 times. Last time, not